Good afternoon. Anybody out there? Looks like we got a few folks in the stream. We'll give it a few more moments for people to jump in and say hello, check in and see who all's here with us. And even though it's titled the Mini Mean Machine Paper Fins, we are going to do that. That's the primary objective of today's stream. But I also want to go over a few other things on some other projects I'm working on. So we'll get you all up to speed on those things as well. So I hope everybody's having a good Saturday. I hoped that I could have gotten up early this morning and gone flying, but two things prevented it. One was weather, and the other one was babysitting duties. I had to stay home with the kids while my wife had to run some errands and do some things, so I stayed home with them. But like I said, it worked out okay because it's cloudy, overcast. Yesterday we had torrential downpour, so probably some flooding still out there in the streets, but for the most part, it's just current weather. It's very cloudy, very humid, very muggy. What did I say? Say something, right? And JC Hobby said something. That's funny. Come on, folks, say something. And Joe put something. We'll give it a few more minutes here. See if anybody else jumps in. Looks like it's just you and me, Joe. Which is fine because you probably have experience. Have you ever papered fins before? Have I asked you that? If so, do you like doing it? Is it something you make a habit of doing? I did, the first time I tried it, I said, I'll never do this again because it was a nightmare. The paper was peeling, the glue was lumpy, nothing was going the way I wanted it to. But then I tried it again, and I had better results, so I'm going to stick with it. I think overall, in the end, it's well worth the effort. I think as I get better, it will be easier. Hey, Biggie. Good to see you. Thanks for jumping in. Joe is definitely original. Hey, Chuck. Yeah, Joe is one of a kind. Hey, Curtis. Thanks for jumping in. I was going to talk about the Alpha 3 in the event that Aaron jumps in here. I don't know if he's going to make it or not. Yeah, it's not. Again, in the end, I think the results are worth it. It's just it's a bit of a chore. Although it does save you in the, I guess you can, the sense of, you don't have to work on the the fins as much as far as getting them, crisp and smooth. The paper kind of does that for you before you paint. So I do like that aspect of it. Well, I'll just go ahead and kind of briefly elaborate on what I'm doing with the Alpha 3. So I think the last time you saw the Alpha 3, I just glued the launch lug on, and I have since gone and epoxied the fillets. So if you notice now, that little gap where the tube meets the launch lug, that's been filled in with rock epoxy, which is a very thick epoxy that does not run. So you can lay it in there, and in fact, let me show you. You've probably seen my other build videos, but you lay the glue in that fillet, and then you take a popsicle stick and just run the stick down that joint, and it gives you that nice smooth fillet. And you can see a little bit of a ridge, but that'll hopefully get sanded out because I've still got more sanding to do. I let the glue dry overnight, and then this morning I hit it with primer. So this is just the primer paint on it right now. And once this cures, I'll go wet sand it down. And for the most part, you can't really see the spirals. In fact, you can see that one right there a little bit. But that technique that I was telling you about before, where you spray the primer on and then wipe it off with lacquer thinner, and the primer fills in the spirals, it does work. Looks like I may need to do a little bit more. Once I wet sand this, I'll hit it with another coat of primer, wet sand that, and then it should be ready for the base coat. So that's kind of where we're at with the Alpha 3. Like I said, hopefully Aaron can jump in here. But if not, that's okay, because it's not quite ready for what we're going to do as a joint operation anyway. So let me set that aside. The other thing regarding the Mean Machine, which is the kind of the focus of this live stream, is I did do this. Oh, almost lost it. I did the same thing. I sprayed the primer on, and you can see the spirals are white. That's the primer paint that filled in the spirals. Again, like I mentioned the other day, that was an accident how I discovered that technique, but I really do like it. It's super simple. You just spray the primer on. I did, in fact, on these, I did half a tube at a time. I just sprayed half the tube fully in white. Then I took paper towels and lacquer thinner and just wiped all the primer off as best I could. And then what's left behind are the spirals filled in with the primer. Again, it's not perfect, as you could see in the Alpha body. Still came out a little bit. You could still see the ridge just a little bit. I don't primer or sand my rockets normally. I'm super lazy. Well, and I remember I asked you if you clear coated your rockets, Joe, and you said no, you don't clear coat them, which is something I do. But is it necessary? I don't know. It makes it shiny. So anyway, that was all in about 5 minutes right there. That is the quickest way to fill in spirals that I found. So now I'll let that cure a little bit more, and then I'm going to hit it with more primer. And if I hit it with primer and I don't see the ridges, I'm going to go ahead and wet sand and just continue on to paint. So I think we'll be good to go. I don't know if I don't think we'll have to do any more filling. Early to mid-September, Biggie. That's kind of my projected goal. And I don't want to spoil too much, but there is something planned in early September that I hope to have this rocket ready to go. So I've still got 2 or 3 weeks yet to play with it, which I think is going to be plenty of time. And I'll also be working on the Alpha 3 concurrently. And additionally, I have another secret project that I really don't want to talk about yet. It's a rocket that I've been building for a while, and I'm almost done. I'm just starting the painting process. But I'm putting out a full build video on that rocket, so that's why I don't really want to talk too much about it. But I think you guys are going to get a kick out of it. It's a little bit different type of rocket. So because the glue is going to take some time to dry, I do want to jump right into the papering. So let's get that started. Then we can set it aside to dry while we talk about other stuff. So let me clear some things off the bench here, and I'll briefly mention what we're doing. So when I say, what's nice, can't wait. Chuck, you piloting while Kevin runs the command center. That'd be cool. So papering fins, what on earth does that mean? Okay, typically, just excuse this piece, it's broken off, but that's okay. So typically what you do is you sand the fins down as best you can. Then you cut them out of their template, which we'll do. And then you sand them again all equal to one another. And again, you sand them until, well, it's balsa, so you got to be careful not to go too much into it, but you want it as smooth as you can before you put the paint on. You put a coat of primer on it, and you're going to see the wood grains. So then you sand that down, spray it. You can use balsa sealer. You can use wood putty to fill in the grains. There's all sorts of different ways of doing it. But it's just step after step after step of getting the wood grains filled in so you have a glass smooth finish before you do your paint. Okay, so how can we alleviate all those steps? Well, you do that by literally gluing copy paper. This is right out of my printer. You glue copy paper onto your fins with Elmer's white glue, which I got right there. And it is then ready for primer and paint. That is all there is to it. Now you still want to do a little fine sanding just to take off any bumps that or ridges that may be sticking up. But for the most part, you don't have to sand it down as well as you normally would have to. And oh, Joe might have a clue. Yeah, he might have a really good clue. So that's the goal of, or the purpose of papering. It creates, again, a smoother finish to paint on, and I think it honestly produces a little bit stronger fin because you've got that layer of glue with that protective layer of paper, although the paper is in and of itself isn't protective, it's like the bread of the sandwich for the glue. So let me angle this down a little bit more. And then what I do is once I get the glue or the paper glued down to the fin, I take 2 pieces of, sorry, bumped the camera, 2 pieces of 1/4-inch plywood, and I take some wax paper, sandwich the fins in between the paper, squeeze them between the 2 plywood sheets, and then I put weight on top of it. In this case, I'm going to take an old ammo can that's got some weight in it and just lay that on there for a while to help hold them as flat as possible. So, yep, there you go. It adds noticeable strength. So far, I have papered the High Flyer XL. You've probably seen that one fly in my previous videos. And my Mean Machine. I don't think I've done any others. Those are the 2 that stand out in memory. So I know the full-size Mean Machine and my High Flyer XL. And it just comes out so smooth and, like Curtis said, stronger. So let's go ahead and start prepping the wood. This piece, it snapped off. I'm not worried about it. But I'm just going to lightly take some. I think this is 220. Just kind of do a rough sand while it's still in the template. It's going to shake the camera, so sorry about this, because the camera's mounted to the desk. Okay. And then do this side. And that's probably more than enough. Let me dump this dust in my trash can. Okay. Then I'm going to take my hobby knife. Now, before I cut the paper, I'm going to swap out blades, but for now, I'm just going to use the older blade that's on it. It's still a good blade, but I do want to replace it before I cut the paper. So then we're just going to cut those little tabs that you'll see all the fins attached to with. Okay, there's 1. 2. Okay, there's another one. There we go. I think this side's easier to see the tabs anyway. Okay. I never throw my templates away. I always save them. I usually label them what they are. So if I ever break a fin or lose a fin, I can just trace that onto new wood and cut out an exact duplicate. So I would advise never throw away fins, templates. Okay, now we need to sand down those little fins. Now, I'm probably going to get some negative comments from the Rocketeers in here, but I am not going to round the leading edges. I know all the reasons why you should. You don't need to, try to explain that part to me. But I did the same thing with my Mean Machine. I left them straight. Even though you sacrifice a little bit of altitude, by not rounding the leading edges, because if you do, one may be rounder than another, and it may produce a lifting force, and you start to get twisting and turning and spiraling. And I just don't, I want to alleviate that. I want nice straight flights. So I'm going to leave all my leading edges square. Again, sacrificing altitude for a more accurate launch without any rolling effect. Okay, so now that I've got these all punched together, I want to kind of press them and make sure they're all equal. And you can see those little tabs on them. Okay, Curtis, you and I speak the same language, buddy. That is part of it, yeah. If they're not going to be exact identical, then I'd rather not do it. So, but I am going to sand these down to get the tabs off. Okay, perfect. Curtis, do you paper your fins also? Is it something you do regularly, or you just tried it a time or two? What's your experience with that? Boo hiss. Well, and of course I am talking to the reigning altitude champion here in this part of the world. Joe does have the altitude record for my neighborhood. So he does speak from experience. But I'll tell you, it also makes papering a whole lot easier too. Try wrapping copy paper around a rounded leading edge. Okay, I think we're good. Okay, once again, I'm gonna dump this sawdust. Okay. I do. I love doing it. I love how smooth and sturdy the fins feel after papering them. Yep. Okay. Well, I'm glad you mentioned that. I don't think I've tried wood glue. I saw other videos of guys doing it, and they recommended Elmer's white glue. Can I ask why? Why do you use the wood glue? Does it give you less or more dry time? I'm just curious what your rationale for that is, because I want to do what's easiest and best. No, I wouldn't even know how you would do that, Joe. I think cardstock fins kind of already have a roundedness to them, don't they? So while Curtis is eagerly typing away, I hope, let me show you what I'm going to do. One other thing I do is I mark at least 1/8 of an inch. That's what I want to do on these fins. I'm going to mark 1/8 of an inch in from the root. Okay, so this is the root of the fin. Okay, in other words, this is the body tube. It goes like this, right? Like you saw with my Alpha 3, I laid down a fillet on the launch lug. Well, I'm going to lay a fillet down as well where the root of the fin meets the body tube. And you want the best adhesion you can get. So what I do is I leave 1/8 of an inch off the wood. I leave the paper off 1/8 of an inch, so I get direct epoxy bond to the wood itself. Okay, so it does dry quicker. Yeah, I was thinking the white does last, or it dries longer, which gives you a little more time to squeeze it into the press, but depends on the thickness. Oh, okay. Okay. For couplers, I've used both. In fact, I don't think I've used white. I've used wood glue, but I'm going to start moving to epoxy on the couplers because I do want that forgiveness in case I don't want it to lock up on me. But so while you guys are chatting about that, let me get my 1/8 of an inch marks on these fins. This is going to take a bit of time, so just be patient. And I don't have to necessarily do all of them, just a couple to get kind of the width in my mind. I can actually just duplicate the other side. Sorry if I... It's kind of interesting when you're working on your desk, when you've got a tripod in front of you, you got to wrap your arms around it, which makes it somewhat awkward, and inevitably you're going to bump the camera. So when that happens, I apologize ahead of time. Okay, so that's going to be, we're going to run the paper just up to that line and leave the rest of the root exposed. No, I've never tried that, Joe. I've heard of people doing it. I just didn't know if it would produce the strength like the glue would. And I was afraid that maybe over time the adhesive would kind of break up and loosen up, and I didn't want any, air pockets flapping inside a painted structure. I just don't know how well the adhesion is to the wood. So, all right. Well, I've procrastinated long enough because I do want to get going. So wood glue or white glue, time really isn't an issue. I'm not really up against a time crunch. Let me get my plywood sheets ready to go. Let me lay these down on the floor. I'll do one fin, lay it on the press, and sandwich it with, between the plywood, and then I'll go make the second one, and then I'll lift the weight and insert it, and just kind of keep going that way. So let's get now again, this is just regular copy paper, printer paper, whatever you want to call it. And obviously we've got some nice straight edges, so I'm going to use that edge to lay down against that. And then what I'll do is I'm just going to, now's actually the time I want to change blades because I want to make nice clean cuts. Let me show you a little workbench trick. I was at the store the other day and I found some double bubble gum, and I'm like, oh, I love that bubble gum. And I noticed the lid, it's like a piggy bank. And I decided this, when I'm done with all the gum, would be a perfect way to dispose of my knives. So I do take my old knives, drop them in the slot there, and you can hear I've got other ones in there. So that's where I store my old blades. Just a little trick there. Okay, let me grab a new blade out of my little box here. Oh, do you really, Chuck? Okay, so I'm not as innovative as I thought, but you definitely don't want to just drop the blades into your trash can, because inevitably you're going to want to dig something out of your trash can, and the first thing you're going to find with your fingers is that blade. So let me do a little bit of a rough cut. Okay, so again, we're going to lay it down just like so. And then once it's down, I'll flip it over. I'm going to trim nicely around the edge and then place it under the weight. So let me set the paper out of the way. Wood glue, white glue, wood glue, white glue. Curtis recommended the wood glue, so I've never done the wood glue. Like I said, I've done the white. So, we'll see what we get here. Okay. You want to make sure you blow all the dust off. You want a clean surface. And popsicle sticks. That's what I use for spreaders. Oh my goodness, you're teaching Annabelle how to drive. Well, okay, good luck to you, Chuck. Have fun, be safe, and I hope it's not a stick shift. Otherwise, make sure you get a neck brace. You know what I'm talking about. Okay, so pretty straightforward here. We're just going to lay some glue down, spread it, again, up to the line I made. Okay. Okay, flip it over. Take my knife. Trim the paper off. Okay, there we go. So I'm going to lay this down in my press and just keep some weight on it. Actually, you know what? No, let's do the other side now while we have a chance. I think that was actually my plan to begin with, and I kind of lost sight of what I was doing with it. Okay. Oops. Get this corner a little bit more. There we go. I'm just going to do a rough cut on this one for now, just because I want to get it in the press ASAP. Okay, so now that's underweight, which is good. All right, sorry I missed some chat. What did I miss here? Interesting, you're cutting the paper before the glue dries. I've never seen paper done this way. It might be a new technique for me. Okay, well, is it right or wrong? I don't know. It's just a way to do it. All right. Well, and again, I think it's easier if I'm going to lay the paper, because I have seen people where they lay the fin down on the paper, which that works too. But in this case, I don't want to go over that edge, so I've got to line it up in such a precise way. It's easier to just use a small piece of paper than the whole sheet. Oh, yeah. Love, peace, and chicken grease, brother. Take care, Biggie. You have fun. And, yeah, it's always good to throw the ball around with the kids. I miss doing that. Okay. So let me... And again, I may actually need another sheet when it gets down to it, because I don't want to use the inner part of the paper because there's no straight edge on that. I want to just kind of use the perimeter paper, which, you know, it's not a big deal. The paper is not that expensive, just for a couple sheets. Yeah, so I think I'll get maybe 3 out of 1. Okay, so that's going to be the way it lays down. Exactly. That's about right, JC. I'll start getting death threats in the mail. You're doing it wrong. Well, at least I'm doing it right. Yeah, I'm really turned off by the TRF, to be honest with you. I mean, I go in there once in a while and peruse through and, kind of see what's going on, but for the most part, I steer clear of it. And I know, like, Ron posts a lot of his updates in there, and I miss a lot of the updates because I just don't go in there, but again, it's kind of a turnoff. It's just not the funnest, nicest place to hang out. Okay, here we go. Yeah, imagine doing this on a rounded leading edge. Not fun. Okay. Okay, one down. Let's see, I'll use this piece, this straight edge here. About halfway out. Okay, so there's my straight edge. I probably don't need to lay any more glue down because I've got enough on this popsicle stick. Probably to do the rest of the fins. Okay. Okay, just do a quick cut around it. And this just kind of saves space on my plywood sheet. So this one's going in the press. Okay, we are halfway through. Yeah, that's about all I look at is those updates. Yes, in fact, I was going to talk about that. I've got a little bottle of thin CA glue that I do seal the edges because it does two things. It seals the wood, so it'll take the paper or the paint better, and it seals the edge of the paper to the wood also. So yeah, great question, MH, and yes, I do that. Great question. Okay. Do I have enough on this piece? No. Don't quite have enough. That's okay. Okay, there's my straight edge on this line here. Oops, I spilled my glue. That's okay. Yeah, look, there's still enough glue on the stick. Of all things to try to do on a live stream, one of the most tedious processes of papering a fin, and I'm doing live, but I'm having fun. Okay. Okay, I successfully laid this paper down on my keyboard of my laptop, and it had glue on it. So now I've got glue on my keyboard. Wonderful. All right, give me 1 second while I get this cleaned up. Fortunately, yeah, wood glue is easy to clean up with water. Oh boy. How did I let that happen? Of course, I'm hitting the buttons and now my computer's doing all sorts of crazy things. Okay. Crisis averted. I'm going to go get a brand new piece of paper just because I got some glue. I got glue on my table here too, my little cutting board. Okay, I think this is a good place to take a break and go get a new piece of paper. And I'm going to use a new popsicle stick too. Okay, voila. As if it just appeared out of thin air. Okay, there's our straight edge. Get a new popsicle stick. Checking the chat, no new messages. Have you ever tried epoxy? MH? I'm just curious how that would work. If it's more forgiving or if it just seeps into the paper more, or, you know, I have no idea what kind of results you can get from that. Okay. Again, just a easy cut around it. Okay, going in the press. And just like that, we've got one to go. All this. Okay, those are my straight edges. For papering? Yeah, I was just asking if you ever use epoxy for papering. Oh no, yeah, I wouldn't imagine you could use a JB Weld on papering, but just I didn't know if you maybe 30-minute slow cure epoxy or something like that. No, I use JB Weld on. Well, I just started putting it on my baffles I glue the baffles together with wood glue, but then I'll paint the face of the baffle, the side that faces the ejection charge. I'll paint that bulkhead with JB Weld just to make it a little more heat and flame resistant. Hey, Jay. Thanks for jumping in. Live rocketry building in process. Yeah, this is coming out really, really nice. This actually might be my best papering job I've ever done, to be honest with you. It's coming out. I shouldn't have said that before my last piece here, but I am very pleased with the results. Okay, last piece going on. Okay, going in the press. Alrighty, there we have it. Let me clean up my blade here. Got a little bit of glue on it. Alright, clean up these scrap pieces. Alright, there we go. So we're going to let those sit for a while. Not sure if we'll get to them before the end of the stream, but we've been going for 43 minutes and everything's going decently. When I make my baffles, anything that gets hit with ejection charge is coated with, yep, that's exact. You know, I didn't do that on my, I think the first baffle I built was on my VK7, my Rocketarium clustered motor rocket, and I didn't even think about doing that until Don Brent mentioned it, which I was hoping Don would make it in today, but I haven't seen him. Hey, Blake, how you doing? Hey, congratulations on your sale today, man. It looked like you did a killing. That was awesome. Very, very, very good sale. And I know there are a lot of sales to be held. It was kind of funny when Ethan said, all right, we're going to show the vintage cards first. That kind of knocked me out of the sale, to be honest with you. Because, like, well, good luck finding Diamondbacks in the vintage collection. But, no. In fact, I was wondering, and don't answer this, but I was curious how many of those cards were ever in my hands to begin with, because I know I used to sell a lot of stuff too. So it's kind of fun how the circle of life just rotates like that. That's awesome. I'm glad it went well for you. So yeah, you were making some killer deals. Alrighty, so let me show you guys again, for those of you that may have missed the beginning. This is the Alpha 3 kit that I'm going to be building with Aaron, and I'm doing some of the stuff ahead of time on my own, just because it's stuff he probably wouldn't do or want to do. But I did get the fillets glued in there with the rock epoxy. In fact, Curtis, speaking of epoxy and stuff, have you ever used rock epoxy? To me, that is just the best stuff in the world for fillets. It's strongest epoxy I've come across, and it's so thick that it does not run. So you just run you lay your glue in there, run your popsicle stick down for the fillet, and it stays. I mean, you could stand it up like this, on its side, upside down. The glue ain't running any direction. I typically have used wood glue in the past on my smaller rockets, and I was only doing the rock epoxy on the larger stuff. But I just love the way it lays down. You don't get the shrinkage like you do with the wood glue. It's, in my opinion, the best stuff for fillets of all sizes. So I'm going to be using rock epoxy on all my projects now. All rockets of all sizes. It's called Rocket Epoxy. Apogee sells them. If you go to Apogee's website, go to their, and they come, in fact, let me go grab it. I'll show it to you. They come in little pint jars. Okay, Curtis, let me slide this out of the way and show you. This is rock epoxy, of course, A and B, resin hardener, and I don't have a screwdriver handy to open it up with. But yeah, rock epoxy. Look it up. It's not the cheapest stuff in the world. I want to say I paid $60 or $70 for this combo here. They also give you a little bottle of black dye you can mix with it. That looks like something that's regulated by OSHA and EPA. Yeah, no joke. Oh, really, Joe? Okay, I've only ever seen it at Apogee. I haven't seen it elsewhere, but honestly I haven't even looked to be. But no, I am absolutely sold on this stuff. Oh, okay, it's a quart. I said a pint. Yeah, 1 quart. Yeah, no, awesome stuff. So. And it I don't know, Joe, have you used it before? I like to say it reminds me of peanut butter. It has the consistency of peanut butter. In fact, the resin looks like peanut butter. It's actually a brownish color. You open up the jar and it looks like a can of Skippy or Jif. So there we have it. That's kind of where we're at. Maybe I could get some in a group buy. Yeah, that wouldn't be a bad idea. Yeah, because I mean, I've done several rockets with it now, including my Zephyr, the large one, and I haven't even made a dent into those cans. These cans may last me as long as my full bale of the cellulose fiber for my wadding. That thing will last 2 lifetimes, and then some. Rock epoxy may be the same way. In fact, do I still have... Okay, this is kind of weird. I just dug this out of the trash. When I glued my fins... I'm sorry, let me start over. When I glued the launch lug on this one, I actually did mix a little bit of black into it, and this is what peeled off my mixing plate. In fact, here's my... I always use the little, like, Pringles lids. This is what I mix epoxy on, and... well, let me break this. Let me snap it. This was glued last night. Okay, well, it took some effort. But no, rock epoxy is super, super strong. And again, the best thing about it, it's so thick it doesn't run. So you if you're using wood glue or slow epoxy, you got to lay down a fillet and let it dry. Rotate it, lay a fillet, let it dry, rotate it. Well, with rock epoxy, you don't need to let it dry because it ain't going to run on you. So you just lay it, roll it, like that. Yeah. Hey, Bibster. You randomly got sent here by eBay, huh? Yeah, it's definitely no run epoxy. It's awesome stuff. And for the price you pay, you kind of hope you get good quality, which you do. Yeah. Oh, can you? I did not know that. Well, I've still got a lifetime supply, Joe, so if you ever need anything, just holler. I'll scoop up some, throw them in a little Ziploc baggie, and ship them out your way. I was going to show you guys also what your opinion is on this. So I cut a piece of Kevlar, and I'm going to ship this out to Aaron. So when he builds his Alpha, he's still going to build with, the trifold, but instead of using the rubber shock cord glued in here, he can glue the Kevlar in here. And I've already pre-tied a little loop at the end, and I CA'd the end so they won't come unfrazzled on us, on him. But then he can tie his rubber cord to that loop, and over time, if it gets brittle, he can just cut it off and just put on a new rubber cord. But this will be what actually glues to the trifold. What do y'all think of that? You think good idea if I just throw this in an envelope and throw a little stamp on it and send it his way? It's kind of why I was hoping he'd show up today. I could let him know that it's going to be headed out that way. Jay says, I like qualify. Do you mean quality? What, you think it would tear out of the paper? Well, actually, I hadn't thought of doing this until I think Don, or I thought it was actually maybe you, Joe, or Curtis, one of you guys recommended that you'd put this in the trifold. Oh, there you are, Aaron. We were just talking about you. Your ears must have been ringing, sir. Figuring out how we're going to get you set up with a good quality shock cord mount on your Alpha 3. Here's my Alpha 3. It's getting ready for paint. I'm going to paint it black, so then it's going to look just like yours again. If the trifold is coated with wood glue, it should be okay. See, I thought I've seen Tim Van Milligan on his videos wrap this in the trifold. And I don't, honestly, looking at the body tube here, Curtis, I don't think Aaron's going to need any more length than this, because here, Aaron, I'm going to try to show you what we're talking about, because Aaron's like, you're talking about me, but I don't know what you're saying. Okay, your Alpha kit, Aaron, comes with a rubber band shock cord. Okay, it's just this long, I don't know, 24-inch or so piece of rubber band. What you do, well, you keep it simple, but it's not going to last. That's the problem. Oh, put a loop in going to the trifold? Maybe so. That's not a bad idea. So what you do, Aaron, is you glue the rubber band over numbers 1 and 2, like that with wood glue. Okay, I haven't cut this out, but just imagine this is a cutout triangle piece. And then what you do is you lay down glue on 1 and you fold 1 over onto 2. And then you put glue on top of that and you fold that over onto 3. So what you have is a piece that looks just like number 3 that's folded up with this sticking out of it. Okay? Then you take this whole unit and you, again, it's these two folded up onto this, so it's only this dimension. You glue this part here down in your tube. So then you've got this piece, it's going to look like this. It's glued in like that. Then you tie your nose cone and your parachute and all that stuff to this shock cord. So when your motor ejects the nose off, this rubber band takes up the shock of that explosion. That's why it's called a shock cord. But the problem is, over time, this shock cord will get burned to a crisp from that ejection blast. And if it's glued into this, and this is glued into that, then when this goes bad, your rocket's done. Well, it can be repaired, but it's not easy. So what we're contemplating, Aaron, is sending you a piece of Kevlar cord, which is flame resistant. And I got a little loop in this already that you can tie your rubber band to it. Okay? Tie a knot on it, and then use this in your trifold paper. Again, this is never going to go bad on you. And if the rubber ever gets bad and brittle, you can just cut that knot off and glue or tie another one in. Was that as simple as or clear as mud, Aaron? You can pry it out. I have done that. That is true. I'm just trying to forego having to do that. It just, that'll show what you just explained. That'll show what you just explained. Okay. Yeah, so now JC is recommending tying a knot or a little loop in this piece also. So when you glue that in, it may not, hold up a little bit better. Yes, you still want the full length rubber. Yeah. The longer you can get, the better. They have in your kit. Where'd I put that? Oh, it's over here. Oh, it's the same length. Yeah, this is actually the Alpha 3 rubber band, and it's a good, 2 feet also. So it's the same length. Yeah, it's harder to pull out of the trifold. Okay, so yeah, I'll send that to you, Aaron, and you can maybe tie a little knot on the end or a loop or something, and maybe that'll help hold in the glue in the trifold. Here, let me show you, Aaron. This is your manual. In fact, there's your little trifold I was talking about. They recommend you cutting it out of the instructions, but I don't like to destroy my instructions, so I just photocopy this and use regular printer paper. Like it says, make a copy if you want to keep instructions. But anyway, that's your shock cord mount. But let's see where they show. See, there's the diagram right here. You fold it up, you glue the rubber band inside, and then it makes that little piece there. Glue that and shove it down the tube. And you need to push that down far enough so that your nose cone doesn't hit it. Because if your nose cone shoulder slides in and hits that mount, it's going to prevent the nose cone from going all the way in. So you need to mount it at least as far down as your nose cone goes, if that makes sense. That's why they show in the picture there. It's got to go down at least 1.5 inches to clear your nose cone. Yes, you glue the paper inside the tube. The dark gray is actually glue that's glue. Yeah, I think they. Yeah, right here they show you add glue to the mount, and then just with your finger push it down the tube to at least 1.5 inches, and glue it inside the tube there. But these are things we'll do together. Sorta, because I'm going to be doing some modifications to mine that you won't be doing, but for the most part, we can work on that together. So I will be sending you this little piece of Kevlar, though. This will just allow, again, your rocket to last longer, at least the shock cord system. So I'll just throw this in an envelope, Aaron, and ship it out your way. Hopefully it'll get there in a few days. So we'll be all set there. And that, to be honest with you, that was Don's idea, Donald Brent. And I wish Donald was here today. I sent him a text telling him I was going to go live, and he obviously was busy. But that was his idea to go with this mount, which I thought it was a good idea. Joe does bring up a good point, JC Hobbies, in that it may rip out. You may want to, again, tie a little knot. Well, thanks to Don. Yeah, Don's looking out for you, Aaron. He wants your rockets to last. Joe said use a business card. That's an interesting idea. I've actually, this is cardstock. I don't even know where I got this piece here. The instructions, though, is just cheap paper. And I photocopied it onto regular printer paper. And I've used my shock cord mounts from that, too, and that works just fine also. So, it all works. It's just how long do you want it to last? That's the question. And, if you guys were going to stock up on a lot of rockets and make this a regular hobby, then you don't need to make it as permanent because you're going to have other rockets to fly. But if this is the only rocket you're ever going to have, then you're going to want this one to last as long as you possibly can. So you want to beef it up a little bit. So, But the SS shock cord kit has thin cardstock. That's what I'm thinking this is, Joe. I must have gotten this from Estes and something. This is not something I printed on my own. This came on thin cardstock. So I'm sure this is what you're referring to. So yeah. What do y'all think about the primer on the tube idea? Okay. All right, Bibster. Bye. Take care. Print on an old baseball card. There you go. Yeah, just take your old Barry Larkin rookie cards, Aaron. Cut them up, fold them up, glue them up. Good to go. No, but what do y'all think about the spraying the primer and then wiping it off with lacquer thinner? Because actually, I think the lacquer thinner, when you wipe it off with the lacquer thinner, it actually helps run the primer into the seam. Curtis, that's the way I've done it in the past. I would normally primer the whole rocket and then go over the spiral with the popsicle stick and wood filler. I mix it with water to thin it out, and I'll just kind of... That is one ugly looking popsicle stick. Wow. Anyway, so I'll use a popsicle stick or even a paintbrush, like a little cheap paintbrush, and brush the filler over the spiral, and then let that dry. Then I'll dry sand it down to the primer. I've done that in the past, but as you know, I'm sure you've done it that way, it takes forever. And this, I did both body tubes from start to finish in 5 minutes. No, Joe, actually it's not extra work. You spray it on, you take a paper towel, douse it with lacquer thinner, and just wipe off the primer. And this is what you get. It's super quick. Now, I'm not saying it fills it in perfectly. As evidenced here, again, there's a little bit... Yeah, there's a little bump I gotta wet sand off, but... It's not 100%, and I don't think anything is 100%. But once I wet sand that, hopefully it'll level it out. What I currently use use primer, then sand. Any spirals remaining, just deal with it. Okay. You got to be careful, and y'all know this. I mean, I always wet sand my primer before I do my base coat of color, but you definitely don't want to allow the primer to disappear down to the cardboard, because once water hits the cardboard, you guys know what that does. Disaster city. You don't want even a drop of water to touch bare cardboard. No bueno. So, yeah. All right, guys. Well, I'm tempted to take the fins out, but I'm gonna let them sit. I think it's just a little too soon. I want that glue to cure. So we'll do we'll go live again on my next chance to work on it, and we'll take the fins out, and I'll CA the edges, of course, except the root edge, and just to seal them up and to ensure that the paper dried. And yeah, and then we'll go from there. There's not a whole lot more to do. I do want to final primer these, get the launch lugs glued on before I primer it, obviously. I'm going to paint them separately. Okay, Blake, take care, bud. I'm going to paint one white and the other one blue, and then I will join them at the coupler. I think that's the way I'm going to handle this. I'm just going to go ahead and paint these separately and then join them later on. So, alrighty, guys. Well, I'm out of projects for the day. Again, just gotta be patient and let those fins dry. To me, that is the absolute hardest part of model building. Not just rocketry, but anything. Plastic models, airplane, RC airplanes, rockets, anything. Waiting for the glue to dry is the hardest part. So if you're not a patient person, maybe this is not the hobby for you. And I wasn't a patient person. I think the hobby taught me to be patient. So if you're not patient, maybe it's what you need. Maybe it'll be a good tool for you. So, but with that, guys, I'm going to go ahead and call it. Again, nothing more I can do at this point. So I want to thank you all for jumping in and joining me and following along. For you guys that were in the chat and contributing ideas, thank you very much. Curtis, I like the wood glue. I like the way it works. I don't think it was as lumpy, to be honest with you, as the white glue. White glue, I had a little lump. This laid down smoother. So thank you for that. Great suggestion. I'll, in future builds, always use a wood glue from now on. Yeah, Joe, thanks for jumping in. It's okay, Aaron. That's what replay's for. I'm not sure how exciting it'd be. You can go back and watch and learn how I papered my fins, which is kind of a different technique. Awesome. All right, guys. Well, thank you very much. Have a great rest of your weekend, and we will see you on the next live stream. God bless everybody. Bye-bye.